Israeli Prime Minister has called for calm after demonstrators, including far-right politicians, forced their way into two military bases. Benjamin Netanyahu said he strongly condemned the disturbances. The protesters were angered by the arrest of soldiers accused of severely abusing a Palestinian detainee. Israeli media reports suggest the Palestinian prisoner had been sexually assaulted by the reservists. Israel denies allegations by human rights groups that suspected Hamas fighters suffer systematic abuse in detention. We're going now live to Jerusalem to speak to our Middle East correspondent, Yolande Nell. Yolande, we've heard about these 9 soldiers that have been detained, soldiers who are working in the Sde Teiman detention center. Can you tell us more?
Well, we saw those rowdy and chaotic scenes at the detention center. It's a camp for Palestinians who have been picked up during the course of the Gaza war. And it's really become quite notorious with Israeli rights groups, international media, including the BBC, investigating what's happening there. We've been hearing in recent months how Palestinian detainees are routinely shackled to hospital beds. They've been kept blindfolded and kept even wearing nappies. And really, when the news broke that these soldiers had been detained for questioning for the sexual assault of a detainee believed to be a member of Hamas. We're told, according to Israeli media reports, that he had been left unable to walk. Well, crowds gathered outside the military base, and then what we saw was actually some of those protesters breaking in as Israeli military investigators arrived at the site. Later on, they broke in to a second military base where there's a military court, and really, you know, that's got the Israeli military chief of staff denouncing all of this, calling this unlawful anarchy. We've had the Israeli Prime Minister and other figures denouncing it, but you also have a prominent member of Israel's hardline government, the cabinet minister Bezalel Smotrich, who is from the far right. And of course, as you said, there were far right members of parliament who were among those who broke in at the site. Well, Bezalel Smotrich said on social media that the soldiers who had been detained should be treated as heroes, not criminals.
And Yolande, what does this tell us about divisions within Israel, not just between government members, but between, you know, different groups within Israel, and also within the international community over pressure about how Israel is conducting itself in Gaza?
Yeah, I mean, so really what we see here are the very partisan divisions that are on display in Israel at the moment, particularly with this hardline government in place. The Israeli Prime Minister relies on the support of these far-right ultra-nationalist parties. He couldn't remain in power without them, and that has really fed into some of the political divisions, the social divisions that already existed within the country. And then on top of that, yes, you know, this other dimension, Israel is currently facing cases before international courts. It's accused of war crimes, a lot of accusations over its conduct of the war in Gaza, international pressure. It strongly denies those accusations of war crimes. And yet, you know, the Israeli military always says it independently investigates any cases of wrongdoing, of alleged abuse that come to light, and it deals with them accordingly. What you have here is Israeli ministers even apparently undermining the Israeli military procedures.
Yolande, thank you as ever for updating us from Jerusalem there. Benjamin Netanyahu says his country will deliver a severe response to the missile strike on the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. The attack on Saturday struck a soccer field in the town of Mejdel Shams, killing 12 young people. Mr. Netanyahu cut short a tour of the United States to visit the site of the attack on Monday. He conveyed his condolences to the local community, which is mostly made up of the Arab Druze minority. On Sunday, Israel fired on sites in South Lebanon it says belong to the militant group Hezbollah. Israel blames Hezbollah for the attack, an accusation the group denies. Our Middle East correspondent Hugo Bechega is in South Lebanon with the latest.
So the wait here in Lebanon continues. Yesterday, the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, again said that Israel would respond to the attack that happened on Saturday and that this response would be severe. Now, we know that there has been intense diplomatic activity trying to limit this Israeli response. The Americans in particular are heavily involved in these efforts to try to contain an escalation of hostilities here. And I think the goal of these efforts is try to prevent an escalation that would put Hezbollah in a position where the group would feel they have to respond to any kind of major Israeli attack. And I think an attack on the capital of Beirut, Hezbollah has its base in the southern suburbs of Beirut, or any Israeli attack targeting a Lebanese civilian infrastructure could be seen by Hezbollah as a major escalation, as a major provocation, and could spark a response by Hezbollah.
That was Hugo Bichega there.